Hello and welcome to Section 101 with Ben Lyle Schwartz. In today's show, we will be recapping the NFL Championship weekend along with how to fix the Pro Bowl. And stay tuned later, we got the weekly recap of the NHL and NBA. Should be great. And our guest today is Ronnie Decker.
What's up, boys?
Just some initial thoughts on the weekend from football. It was a good one.
Yeah, it was a really good week. Didn't get to see too much of the games. Had some stuff going on this weekend, but it was a pretty fun week of football all around.
Yeah, and we will get right into it. The Chiefs played the Ravens at M&T Bank Stadium, and in an outcome that I don't think many people saw coming, the Chiefs won.
Yeah,
And this comes off the back of Patrick Mahomes playing an outstanding game. You're gonna see that Patrick Mahomes is a great playoff quarterback. And just your thoughts on Patrick Mahomes and his quarterback play, because it was brilliant.
Yeah, I just feel like this was truly the game that Patrick Mahomes, everyone knows he's probably one of the better quarterbacks of this era so far, but I feel like this was the game that truly cemented himself as the best quarterback of our era so far. He showed out. He doesn't have any wide receivers. You got Kadarius Toney,
who's allegedly not injured, but
yeah,
put him on the injury report.
Other than Travis Kelce and Pacheco, is the Patrick Mahomes show, and he carried his team to this victory. And this is, I'll have to look up the statistic, but I think this is their 6th AFC Championship appearance in a row, and the 4th time in 6 years that they've gone to the bowl.
Yeah, so it's 4-6, and it's crazy. We always say Lamar Jackson is the all-around quarterback, and he really is an all-around quarterback. But the problem of the Lamar Jackson show that has been Baltimore this year is what happens when Lamar Jackson doesn't have that superstar day. And the Chiefs' defense really shut him down just right out of the gates. It was a brilliant showing by Kansas State defense, who was banged up, and now one of their linebackers is injured going into the Super Bowl. But, this was Lamar Jackson's game that he really could have shown to all of us. He is a truly phenomenal quarterback. I think he choked under the pressure, and I think that Patrick Mahomes, he really silenced all the haters who were saying, Lamar is going to bring the best out of him, and he did. Lamar did bring the best out of Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think Patrick brought the best out of Lamar. And I found the box score quite hilarious, because if you look at the Baltimore receiving game, right, it's Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, and then Lamar Jackson with his pass to himself. He was the 3rd leading receiver on that team. That's not a very good statistic to have. They just didn't play well in general. And thoughts on how the Chiefs really silenced Lamar, because we have not seen the Ravens dominated in the second half like we've seen this weekend.
Yeah, so I would say pretty much the key to this game for me was the turnovers. Baltimore had 3, while Kansas City did not turn the ball over. And if you don't turn the ball over, it's hard to lose games. You look at Lamar; he had a pretty good game. He had that late interception into triple coverage.
Oh my God!
Don't know what he was thinking.
Just watching that made me that was a very Jordan Love-esque
Yeah, that's what I thought. That felt like a Jordan Love
throw. I have nothing to do, and that's one of the times where I'm not a big fan of quarterbacks rushing. But oh my goodness, you have there were 3 guys back, so that means the box is wide open for you to make a little rush. And my goodness, what a bad throw that was.
And when you are Lamar Jackson and you have the legs that he does, you got to make something happen there. You can't throw the ball away. You can't give that ball up there. That was, I believe, it's in the 4th quarter, correct?
Yeah, that was the 4th quarter. Yeah. That was a chance to tie the game right there, because Justin Tucker doesn't miss kicks. He made a field goal in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, you just can't throw that ball there. You have to play this. You have to play the short game there. I think you probably get, I don't know, maybe 5-10 yards on the run
with every Lamar rush. And then I was laughing very much at Zay Flowers, who had maybe the worst red zone possession known to man. He gets a 50-yard pass, a really good chance to set up a touchdown, and then he taunts. And then he fumbles the ball going through the end zone. and people are saying that the taunting call wasn't there. He threw the ball on the defender. That is a clear taunting call. And then the fumble going into the end zone, just a brutal possession. And like you said, the turnovers, they really hurt Baltimore. And Kansas City is in a great place going into the Super Bowl. Just some thoughts on the Ravens season. Like, they're gone now, and I did not see that coming.
I just want to piggyback off what you said with that taunting penalty.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something. L'Jarius Sneed, who he's been in football for a while now.
Oh yeah.
He played that perfectly. He came out and he baited him into the.
Oh yeah, he
baited him into it.
He was on the ground for way too long.
He held on his leg, and no ref is gonna call that a penalty.
No.
But he baited the young Zay Flowers into a stupid penalty.
It may have costed them the game. Yeah, and I think the Ravens have a lot to be proud of this season.
Yeah.
If they can get a wide receiver, they will make the Super Bowl next year. That's the one thing they were missing, is an offensive weapon other than Mark Andrews, who did make a big impact in this game. And that's a conversation for a total another day. We must move on to the 49ers and the Lions, who had a classic ups. Oh my God, just thinking about it makes me so mad. Dan freaking Campbell. I love the guy. I think he's a great head coach. Those two decisions to go for it on fourth down, just, not good at all. At one point, the Lions, they had like a 90% chance to win this thing. A 90% chance. They were destroying the 49ers. Like, we hadn't seen a 24-7 game in San Francisco. And then Dan Campbell gets a little bit too, let's go for it. I mean, take the points. Yeah, just thoughts on Dan Campbell in general. I mean, that was just a bad game.
Yeah, I thought he had some plays early on that ran the team very well in the first half, I'd say, pretty much.
Yeah.
Up until, but I saw something at the end of the second quarter. The Lions they were on, I believe it was the 3-yard line.
And then they
on
kicked
fourth
the field
down,
goal.
and they kick a field goal. And I see that there, but if you're going to do it...
That's the time to go for it, right?
Yeah, if you're going to do it there at the end of the second half when you're already up 21-7, why wouldn't you go for it? Why would you not kick it again when you're down by 3?
Yeah, and then it's almost like he just wanted to make amends for the decision to go for it, and then coming onto the press conference and saying, "I back up all my decisions." Just admit that those were not very good football plays. They could have gotten points. They could have won this game. Because even if you cancel out the 3 points that they would have gotten had they not made it on fourth down, they get those back, and then they tie the game with those 2 field goals. So this is a completely different game if we're talking just play it conservative but risky when you're on top. And what was different for the 49ers in that second half?
Well, they just came out guns blazing. I mean, they came up with the field goal, 50 yards in 9 plays. It was a good drive to start. And then you have the Lions coming out here and turning it over on downs to start off their second half drive. Not a good way to start off the second half. You had all the momentum coming out of the first half. And again, I think it really did happen with that the decision not to go for it there on fourth down when you're on the 3-yard line. That could have been a momentum swing. They were already ahead with momentum.
Yep.
But if you get that touchdown there, I think it's almost over. I mean,
totally.
Then you have 20. Then you're up 28-7 going into the second half, and you can play it more. You can play it safe. If you can kick your field goals, you can. You don't have to risk everything.
And I think the biggest difference first half, second half was the rush game.
Mm-hmm.
David Montgomery had that big touchdown in the fourth quarter, and apart from that, the second half rushing game was not great. Jared Goff did not play great. Brock Purdy, I think, did not play great. This was, once again, Brock Purdy having just an embarrassment of riches and using those as his advantage. If you put him, per se, on the Lions, I don't think he's the same quarterback.
No, he's definitely not. I think anyone on the 49ers is going to succeed. I mean, we saw this with Jimmy G a couple years ago when he took them to the NFC Championship 2 times. Now he's in Las Vegas, and he didn't have a full season this year, but he played like buns. I mean,
and
he wasn't that guy.
Kyle Shanahan's mastered the offensive scheme of mid-quarterback, great weapons, and I think it really showed out. But, I mean, the Lions, the way the city rallied around that team, just heartwarming stuff. They were a game away from the Super Bowl, the best story in the league this season. Good for them.
Yeah.
Just good for them. I mean,
and continuing the tradition of an NFC North team losing to the 49ers in the NFC
really,
Championship.
I mean, it's an obligation, not a tradition. And Now the Super Bowl, I've heard a lot of people saying they're not interested, and I'm not interested. That's a topic for next week, the Super Bowl predictions. And speaking of which, on my Snap and Instagram stories, I'll be posting a link. And on that link, you can voice your opinion, so you're going to record your voice. And I'll be playing all those on the show with your Super Bowl predictions and hot takes surrounding the game. It should be really good stuff. And now let's move on to the Pro Bowl, which take your down below. You're going to select if you're going to watch the Pro Bowl this week or not. And I would expect this to be pretty much 100% no, because nobody watches the Pro Bowl. And we're talking about the game, because you watch the skills competitions.
I watch the skills competitions
They're
every
fun.
now and again. They're all right. I mean, I feel like they've gone downhill. I remember a couple years ago, I was addicted because I was off school. And I just loved the dodgeball. That was my favorite competition.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's something that's just...
Yeah, there are some classics there, and so I asked you guys last week, and I got some pretty good ideas, and the overwhelming thing was get rid of it. And I think you shouldn't get rid of it.
No, that's not
I
something you
think
can do.
you should get rid of the game. The game itself doesn't work. The flag football doesn't work. The regular football doesn't work. So if you're don't get rid of it, but at least do it. And I see you have it. What are the things that they're doing this year for the skills competitions?
Yes, this year we have, as usual, the precision competition, the
Yeah.
best catch.
Closest to the pin.
We have closest to the pin, which it's a golf accuracy competition, and I think that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
That should be pretty cool. Kick-tack-toe.
That's
a classic.
brilliant.
That's a classic,
That's great,
They
yeah.
brought it back from a couple years ago.
Dodgeball, yep.
That's, in my opinion, I feel like that is the best one this year. Snapshots, which is a new one, which lets long snappers and centers showcase their skills.
Good
and
for
this
them.
is good for long snappers and centers, but who cares? Honestly.
But we
who
take
cares?
long snappers and centers for granted. If you lose your center, you're in a bad place. And also, just a little announcement, Madden is now a part of the Pro Bowl, so I think that's a brilliant decision.
Yeah.
So we don't get rid of it.
Bringing in new fans who, let's be honest, there are some fans who don't care about football but still play the games.
Yeah.
And bringing those fans and
Yeah.
let them watch some good.
And now we're going to go from the least outrageous to the most outrageous in terms of what you guys sent me. And number one is the video game tournament, which I think is a great idea. Pretty just standard, and I'm glad that they're doing it. The second one is add money. People love money. If you give the winning team an incentive and you give the losing team a pay cut. So I saw you take away $100K from each player on the losing team and give it to the winning team. I think it's a good idea. Now, does $100K really matter to these guys? No, but it's still money, and they like money.
And I feel like if we're gonna do it something like that, it would be each player in the Pro Bowl from the losing team would donate 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, or whatever.
Yeah.
To the other team's chosen charity.
They did that in the NBA, and I like that.
These $100,000. Let's be real. To most of these guys, it does not matter.
Yeah. And they did it in the NBA with each team playing for a charity, and it worked for the first year. It doesn't work. I'm sure we'll have a conversation on how to fix the All-Star game in the NBA as well. And next one is a wide receiver versus DB tournament, or cornerbacks or safeties. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good skills competition idea. I like it. I think it's great to get these one-on-one matchups that we get to see, but we never get to see some of them, like Jair Alexander taking on Tyreek Hill. It may happen once a year, but if you give them one-on-one and say the wide receiver gets to pick their quarterback, so these guys could go rogue, and you could have a guy who's on a bad team like Devontae Adams not choose Derek Carr, slap in the face of Derek Carr, and he chooses Tua. I think that'd be great. And I like that idea.
I feel like that's a good one. I like that one. I feel like it's something that that's fun, entertaining to watch, and you can show off some new players, because most corners and D-backs don't get recognized.
Much defensive players.
Don't get recognized that much. Wide receivers are a big deal in the NFL.
Oh, yeah,
now.
Totally. And I think it also helps because most of us play fantasy, and we don't have to draft the full defense in fantasy. So it'd be good to give those guys some limelight. And then next up, we got the NBA style draft. So the NBA can just randomly select, and I think it's a good idea because this AFC, NFC stuff, it does not work. Mm-hmm. In the MLB, it's cool because, the winner of the World Series gets the home field advantage, which I think is a great idea. Just your thoughts on an NBA style draft? You put the MVPs of each league, and they get to pick their own teams.
I think it's fun. It's also another way for the NFL to make money. I mean, people are going to
People are
tune in to
yep.
watch who picks who.
They watched the LeBron Giannis thing the first year they did it. It got more views than half the games that they did.
Yeah.
So I think it's smart.
I think it's something that you throw in there. Some people will watch it, some people won't. But you have to fix the Pro Bowl, the game, before you start adding on new things to add to the game.
So now we get to what I think is just these three brilliant things. So number 5 is 1v1 Oklahoma drills.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, imagine this. You get, like, Christian McCaffrey against, like, this
Aaron
massive
Donald.
Aaron Donald.
Ndakma Suh.
That'd be great.
And you can have great moments with, like, I don't know, you could have, like, Josh Allen going out there and running to Oklahoma against... running to Oklahoma against whoever.
Yeah, I mean, you could, like, have, like a King of the Hill style, and they have, each team puts one guy out there, and then... the guy gets to just continue to pick who they want. I think it's a good idea for a skills competition. But now, these two, I think, are great ideas on how to fix the game. Randomize the positions of the players in the game. Imagine, like, you got this big offensive lineman as a wide receiver, and then you got like a center as a quarterback. I think it'd be really good TV.
Something fun to do. I just want to go back to the 1v1 drills, the Oklahoma drills.
I like that.
I feel like that's something that could be like a dunk contest in comparison to the NBA.
Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of the big time players aren't going to want to participate in Oklahoma drills and risk an injury. But some of the smaller players who are looking to get some attention,
McClung.
like a Matt McClung out there, throw a Matt McClung out there, go have some fun in there. If they hit big, they hit hard, get some attention, get some love from some fans, and maybe get a contract someday.
And there's tons of guys, like, on these teams. Like, I know the Packers are the youngest team in the league. There's tons of guys on that team that don't get enough praise.
Yeah.
And that could be a little ticket to, if you feel like you're not getting enough attention, if you can take on these bigger guys, and that's pretty appealing to teams, and it's appealing to audiences. And now back to, the randomizing positions. I think it'd be great television.
I think that's a fun one. That's something that should be added. Maybe a quarter where you have random positions and it's determined by an audience vote.
Yeah, I would love
more
an
involved.
Audience vote. Like, you could get some random matchups, like, put or you could just, like, entirely swap it, like, wide receivers and running backs to the O-line.
Yeah.
And then, like, you have the corners going to the O-line, so you get, like, an all-big men wide receiver and safety core. I think it'd be just hilarious.
Yeah,
and
kickers at quarterback.
Yeah, I saw another, like, the kickers and coaches play quarterback. I think, like, there are some coaches out there that could, like, Dan Campbell. I'm scared of that guy.
Yeah, I would
like,
not want to take.
There are some coaches on there that I would not want to sack or anything.
Dan Campbell in the Oklahoma drill.
Oh, God.
Don't want to see that.
And then for our last one, I think this is just brilliant. The winner of the new United States Football League. Now the XFL and the US and the UFL emerged.
USFL?
So now it's like the United Football League, and it's a spring league that I'm pretty interested in. I watched the XFL and I liked it. They play the worst NFL team for relegation. That would be hilarious.
I love it.
Imagine you have just like this year. I don't know who is the worst NFL team this year. I think
Panthers.
Finally the Panthers. So like you have Bryce Young lead the Panthers against the winner of this amateur football league.
Yeah.
And imagine if the Panthers don't win. Now, would they win? I think so. But it would still just be... It's like fantasy booking. We always say, what if the best college team plays the worst NFL team? Well, now you can have 2 pro sports leagues, and you could actually have a really entertaining game. People would definitely watch, because it's all the suspense of, will we actually see a relegation? Because in Europe, they do, for the soccer games, they do different leagues of relegation. And I think it'd be a cool idea, because you have, the NBA G League is a completely different thing than the USFL, and it's an opportunity to do something different, so.
And I feel like that's also something, I know most people don't really watch it, but this is something I've been interested for a while now with the MLB and their skills competition, or not their skills competition, sorry, the Rising Stars game.
Yeah.
And that's something that's usually pretty fun to watch. You get to see some, the people coming up through the ranks. And that's how Brewers prospect Jacob Misiorski broke out, throwing 102 off the bump.
Yeah.
And that's something you can do with this too. You get some younger guys in, or maybe even bring up some college guys. Their season's over. They wanna show out.
If they don't wanna, if they're I think that would be more chill game for college guys, since they don't want to risk injury. But I think I would love a game for relegation. I think people would watch that way more than Peyton Manning and Eli Manning being the coaches.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was the best idea you heard out of all of those?
Honestly, I would love to see the 1v1 Oklahoma drills the most. That's something I would love to see.
I like the King of the Hill style, where each team puts out their biggest guy, and we do that. I think there's a lot of potential for some really, really fun stuff there.
Except DeMar Hamlin don't get out there.
Oh, please don't. All right, thanks, Ronnie, and we will now be on to the weeks in reviews of the NBA and NHL. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Alright, and let's move on to the NBA Week in Review, the games, players, and trends of the week. And we'll start off with the best games of the week, and the Hornets upset the Timberwolves 128-125 despite a 62-point performance by Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't know if Anthony Edwards was playing in this game. He's been injured a lot this year, and he hasn't really been the most healthy guy. A lot of the burden has fallen on Karl-Anthony Towns, and I think he's done really well, but to lose to a team like the Hornets, who are really struggling, is quite inexcusable. So a big win for Charlotte. LaMelo Ball played really good, at 44 points in that game. So a good win for the Hornets and Timberwolves, who are contending in the West. It's going to be interesting to see where they lie. The Celtics and Heat had a rematch of the NBA Finals from last year, and it was in Boston. And my goodness, did the hometown team show out 143-110. This is part of a bigger trend for Miami that we'll touch on a little bit later. They have not been good recently. They've been on the losing end of most of their games, and you have a chance to walk into Boston and make a big statement. And they squandered that opportunity. Jimmy Butler hasn't been great. Bam Adebayo's been carrying the load for this team. I like the Terry Rozier trade. I think it brings in some firepower, but even he hasn't been really changing the tide of this game. I don't like the way that the Heat are looking, and it's a big win for Boston. A 43-point win in an NBA Finals rematch. It's great. In an instant classic, the Lakers beat the Warriors 145-144 in double overtime. LeBron James, he should not be doing this at this age. A 30, 20, 10 triple-double. He's absolutely outrageous. And the Warriors are a team who's been playing much better recently. But facing the Lakers team that has been a tough out this season. And I would look for them to make a big impact in the play-in tournament. This game was no exception. I mean, the two stars, they showed respect after the game. Those two have been in so many big battles over the years. It is a defining rivalry of the 2010s. Steph Curry versus LeBron James, and those two don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. But a big win for the Lakers. That's a statement victory over the Golden State Warriors. So now there have been quite the substantial amount of big games in this past week. Devin Booker had a 46-point game to lead the Suns over the Mavericks. It's a game that they've been jockeying for placement a lot of. They're only separated by one game in the West. Phoenix has been looking great recently, and getting Devin Booker back and fully healthy is really big for them. Then we just start getting out of hand. So Joel Embiid scored 70 points over the San Antonio Spurs. He dominated Victor Wembanyama. And it's the way that these guys are racking up points is kind of crazy, and the Sixers are looking great. Joel Embiid just scored 70 points in a game. I mean, the Spurs aren't the best team in the league. I mean, they're bottom of the barrel, but they're certainly not like an incompetent team. So Embiid scoring 70 over them is huge. But you want to talk about substantial stuff. Luka Doncic, 73 points in their win over the Hawks. Despite 73, the Mavericks only escaped with a win over Atlanta by 5 points. Atlanta is just holding on to the play-in spot. Right now, in the East, they're currently just hanging on to that by a game over Brooklyn. So they have a chance to make an impact, and Trae Young's been playing pretty well. But to only escape by 5 and having that big performance by Luka, Dallas has got to keep it going. But Doncic just continues to do great. Both of those, Embiid and Doncic, franchise records for their respective teams. And Doncic like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th all-time in terms of that point total. So the trends, the Pistons won a game over the Oklahoma City Thunder. You'll love to see it. Pistons are finally starting to come into their own. They're almost going to be on top of Washington. It's only 2 games separating those two. It's like a fight for the first draft pick. But getting a win over the Thunder is huge. I mean, it was a big-time upset. OKC's been looking really good this year. It's a great crop of young talent that they've got down there. They're going to be great for years to come. Chet, he's been healthy this year. He's been great. And Shea is playing at an MVP caliber level. But for the Pistons to get that win, big-time stuff. So the Knicks and Clippers are in similar situations in their conferences. Clippers in 3rd and the Knicks in 4th. And they're both riding 5- and 6-game win streaks. So those are 2 teams that I would be on the lookout for. Especially with New York playing very closely with Philadelphia. Anything can happen in that division. And then you look at the West, and the Clippers are right in the middle of everything. They're not first place yet, but they're definitely not like Sacramento, Phoenix level. So it's going to be a 4-team race: Oklahoma City, Minnesota, LA, and Denver. If LA keeps playing at this level without the production from Paul George, I'd be very shocked if they don't make a deep playoff run. And we touch on the Heat. Well, they're on a 6-game losing streak right now. They have not been doing good lately. They needed to make the Terry Rozier trade to do something. They've traded places with Cleveland and Indiana. Cleveland's a 9-1 in their last 10. Just outrageous stuff. And Miami's got to get it going. They're tied with Orlando right now. But they're a team that they have the talent to make a deep playoff run. So they should be right in the thick of things. So what to watch for the next week, February 1st, the Lakers-Celtics. It's always a classic rivalry. January 31st, Nuggets-Thunder. 2 big-time teams in the West. Be sure to get on that. It's a Wednesday night TNT game. It's going to be great stuff. And then the Bucks and the Mavs on February 3rd. Should be a decent game there. Milwaukee is in a good position in the East. And speaking of Milwaukee, they hired Doc Rivers, and that will be our discussion for today. How will this help them? Doc Rivers obviously has not been great in the playoffs. That's where he's struggled, and he's a great regular season coach, and I think he will continue to be a great regular season coach. But can he get this team into the playoffs? I think he can. He's got an embarrassment of riches with that team. Giannis said he was shocked, which I don't like. If from a Bucks fan perspective, Giannis saying, I was shocked when they fired him, that's not good. Because Giannis was in on the hiring of Adrian Griffin, and was he in on the firing? Like, that's not good. If your star is coming out and saying, I was pretty shocked when they fired our head coach and got Doc Rivers, that's not really good. But I think Doc Rivers is huge for this Bucks team that should be in first place in the East, no matter which way you put it. They have one of the best rosters in the league. I do have questions about the defense once we get time to the playoffs, but that's a discussion for a different day. Case in point, Doc Rivers is a great acquisition. It's everybody's dream to just fire their coach and then mid-season and get Doc Rivers. And now the Bucks are paying 3 coaches. They haven't finished paying Bud. They're paying Adrian Griffin and Doc Rivers. So paying 3 coaches, but they've got the money and they've got the resources to win a championship this year. Just want to end the NBA segment with a cool moment. Talked about it last week. Dejan Miljevic passing away, and the Warriors did get the win over the Hawks in their first game after his death, and they wore really cool DM heart patches on their jerseys. If you get the time, take a look at it. Really good stuff. Very emotional game. Did a little pregame tribute to him, and good for them to pull out the win. Maybe this is a spark for them. They have a chance. I mean, the West is wide open right now. On to the NHL. So, in the NHL last week, quite an eventful week is heading into the All-Star break midway point of the season. Let's get right into the games. The Sharks upset the Rangers 3-2 in overtime. You love to see it. Sharks getting a big win over a real threat in the East, and New York's been playing really good this year. They're on top of the Metropolitan Division, and seeing the Sharks, who only have 30 points, 13, 32, and 4, getting a big win in overtime. I mean, could this be a spark for San Jose to maybe get a little push here at the end of the season, end on a high note? They have some talent down there, but see how they keep it up. But for the Rangers, it's a wake-up call. The Toronto Maple Leafs and Winnipeg Jets had a little 2-0 series this week. The Leafs won that series 2-0. They won the first one in overtime, 1-0, and then it was a 4-2 victory. The Toronto Maple Leafs are going to touch. They've been so good in this past couple week-long stretches. And as a team that's right in the middle of things, you're in that little 3-team race right now with Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Detroit. Can you get that push going forward? They have all the talent in the world. Austin Matthews has been just brilliant for them this season. Straight up MVP candidate. And beating Winnipeg, who is in a good place right now in the Western Central Division. Just 2 points off of Colorado and only a point off of Dallas. It's a big win, and to go 2-0 in the same week against a Canadian rival, it's great, and they won in different ways. They played a 1-0 game in overtime and a 4-2 shootout. Toronto's showing that versatility. And then the Vegas Golden Knights lost 6-5 to the New Jersey Devils in overtime. The Vegas Golden Knights did get Adin Hill back, and we'll touch on that later, but they've been rocking Logan Thompson these past couple days. It has not been working for them. Shootout with a team like New Jersey, they will hurt you. And the Devils, I mean, if they want to do something, now is the time to go. You're in a close race for third place in the Metropolitan Division. Touch on them later. Philadelphia has not been good. They've really given up that second place seat. And now a chance, only 5 points off. So a 2-game swing right here. New Jersey, Pittsburgh, or New York can take Philly's spot. So a big win for the Devils. Is that a spark? We will see. The Vegas Golden Knights are outside of that a really good week. Adin Hill did return later. Got a 40-save game in his return from IR. Just great stuff. If you are a Vegas Golden Knights fan, seeing your number one goalie return, get a 40-save game, which is pretty much unheard of. We'll talk about another great goalkeeper performance later, but Vegas getting their core back. They got Jonathan Marchessault back. He had a hat trick, and Vegas beat the Rangers 5-2. Big time win for Vegas, especially coming after a crushing loss to the Devils. 2 big losses for the Rangers this week, and Jonathan Marchessault, the hat trick. Keep that guy going. Without Jack Eichel, you're going to have to lean on other guys. And I don't know if Mark Stone's the guy. I don't know if Alex Petrangelo's the guy, but Jonathan Marchessault has been looking really good recently. He's a great guy to have, especially without Jack Eichel making that playoff run, but the Rangers taking 2 big losses in the week. And Nikita Kucherov had a hat trick as the Lightning beat the Flyers, so they came out on the losing end of that. Kucherov, as we said, he's leading that Lightning team right now as they are in that 3-team battle. And the Flyers, we said, they've been just not really good recently. And Alex Lyon had a 30-save shutout for the Detroit Red Wings. And Detroit's also in that battle with Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Detroit. So some big wins for those 3 teams. Toronto going 2-0 against Winnipeg, and then Tampa Bay and Detroit both getting wins against Philly. Alex Lyon, good to see him. You got Larkin up front. Detroit's a dangerous team. If they sneak into the playoffs this year, I wouldn't be shocked. And it's a big game for the keeper. Good win for the team. So now time to get to the trends. Philadelphia Flyers on a 5-game losing streak. Said they've lost that number 2-3 seed in that throne right there in the Metropolitan Division. They're being chased by now like 4 teams. New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Washington, New York. They're all 51 and 52 points. It's close now. The Panthers, talked about them last week, and all of a sudden, boom, you're right back into things. 4-game win streak for Florida, who is now at 66 points. They'd be leading the Metropolitan Division, and they'd be in second place in the Central, but Boston is just on another level this year. Same with Vancouver. They've been good. Talking about Vancouver, they've been interesting lately. They've been having some up and down games recently. Interesting to see how they play out, especially with Vegas heating up. And then our final little trend, the Blues trying to make a surge. 5-game win streak. I mean, they have a chance. They have to win the battle with Nashville. Those 2 teams jockeying for 4th place in the Central. Make a wild card push. I mean, who knows what could happen in the NHL. We're only halfway through the season, so if St. Louis wants to make a push, now is the time. They're currently 2nd place in the wild card. Braden Schen's looking great. And Jordan Binnington in goal, always a reliable hand to have going forward. And the All-Star Game coming up this week. Give it a watch. NHL is always great. The All-Star Game is never the most brilliant thing, but it's really the only thing on TV in terms of the NHL. They will return to regular action next Monday. A couple really good games. And in terms of our discussion, I know you guys are probably like, you left the Oilers out of the trends. And yes, they have a 16-game win streak going as of the recording of this video, and their next game is after the All-Star break. The NHL record is a 17-game win streak. The Oilers have 16. But their next game is against the Vegas Golden Knights. I'd be concerned if I was an Oilers fan and I'm really like gung-ho about this. We're going to break the win streak. You have to go through a team. And Vegas has been playing good recently. It's no gimme. It is no gimme. And the way Edmonton's been playing, great stuff. And if they would beat the Vegas Golden Knights, they would play the Anaheim Ducks, and that would probably be a win. Now, it's getting into, we're just predicting one game here, because if they beat the Knights, I'm very confident they'll just beat Anaheim straight up. It is at Anaheim. They are going into T-Mobile Arena, so they're playing on the road, and it's going to be a harsh environment. I mean, I'm excited to see if this Edmonton team can handle the pressure, because we've seen teams get close before in tons of sports to like a win streak record, and then they just fall right there. They've been just getting really good wins. They haven't been shootout wins, haven't been overtime wins. I think they can do it if they get past Vegas, which is a totally different story. I'll just go on a limb and say, yeah, this team is built to survive. It's going to be a playoff environment in Vegas. That is going to be a phenomenal game on February 6th. Big time action. So that'll do it for the podcast today. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to listen to Section 101. Next week, we're going to be trying something a little different. Be aware for my Snap story and my Instagram story. I'm going to be posting a voice link. You will be able to send in a hot take about the Super Bowl, which is shaping up to be really, really good between the Niners and Chiefs, and who you think is going to win, and I'll be reacting to those. So be sure to send in those voice messages for next week, and be sure to listen next week for our Super Bowl predictions. We'll be doing the whole show on that, along with our regular recaps of the NHL and NBA. Thanks for listening. See you later. Sayonara.